Yes, our third of the Halloween videos.
So this one is called The Haunted Pumpkin of Sleepy Hollow, and it came out in 2004.
So this is the shortest video,
Mm-hmm.
the shortest movie that we had to watch in preparation for this.
Yeah, it was like maybe 46 minutes, I think.
46, 47.
Mm-hmm.
You take out commercials. So it's not a full-length feature. It's more of a short story than a novel.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to have a comparison. So
this movie, in case
it takes place in Sleepy Hollow, which is a real place.
in New York.
And the original Sleepy Hollow manuscript is at the local museum,
Mm-hmm.
which this class has a field trip to, and in that class are two of our main characters.
Kate and Nick, whose last name happens to be Crane.
Yep, so he gets, so the bully calls him after they hear the story of Ichabod Crane, Nichabod Crane,
Mm-hmm.
and mocks him for being a scaredy cat like Ichabod Crane, and just stuff like that. And Nick is very defensive,
Mm-hmm.
and then Kate and Nick are in charge of making the haunted house for their school.
Mm-hmm. Because it's the day before Halloween.
Mm-hmm. So the next chunk of time with them is spent in the school getting stuff ready, getting animatronic horrors, like there's a skeleton that they put some of the cafeteria green jello on,
To make him look like a zombie.
and various other things. Nick is very technologically savvy.
Mm-hmm.
Like when they're at the museum, he's more impressed by the case the book is kept in than the book itself. Well, Kate is a Sleepy Hollow buff, so
But
yeah,
she
the
loves
story-
the old history of the town and everything.
Yep. So
So while they're at the museum, there are two window washers who we learn are actually thieves.
then they steal the manuscript, and those plots intersect when they're running from the security guard who almost caught them, and they hide the manuscript in a pumpkin, which Kate and Nick eventually pick up because they're looking for a pumpkin for a contest.
Mm-hmm.
Because right after everyone's supposed to go through the haunted house they made, there's going to be a contest to see who carved the scariest pumpkin.
Mm-hmm.
So they finished with the haunted house, and now they're going to do their pumpkin because they want to participate. So Nick stumbles upon the pumpkin, and it's the biggest one there because they want a big one.
Nick suggested that they go find a wild pumpkin
Because
because
those are known to grow larger than the kind, a farmer brings to a market or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
So they take that home. So now the two thieves are stalking them because they want their pumpkin.
Mm-hmm. So they
so-
go back to school with the pumpkin, and it starts getting very, very stormy outside. And apparently, we learned that on the night before Halloween that all the spirits come out and are free to roam the earth.
Yep, so they meet a ghost named Nathaniel who claims to be a Revolutionary War hero.
Mm-hmm.
And he tags along with them for this little adventure.
And he tells them the story of the Headless Horseman,
It was real.
who was a Hessian
And they have his pumpkin.
mercenary, I'm sorry, I misspoke.
So eventually it gets to the point where the thieves are chasing them, as is the Headless Horseman, because they have his replacement head and he'd very much like it back.
And if he gets it on his shoulders before midnight on Halloween, then there's no going back for him. He'll wreak havoc.
Yeah, he'll get to stay and cause untold chaos. So they have to keep the pumpkin away from him. So they run around. Nathaniel is convinced to help them.
And they end up...
He's very much a scaredy cat like Nick, but they're like, what kind of hero are you? So his pride is wounded, so he helps.
But they end up at one point going into the Von Tassel's castle.
And Kate says, one of their descendants lost all their money during a stock market crash in the 20s.
Mhm.
So it's abandoned and boarded up. So they get in. There's lots of ghosts there. They have to navigate through and avoid getting caught because
The thieves
they're
and
all at least vaguely threatening.
yeah, and the thieves are still after them because they want the manuscript inside the pumpkin.
And the security guard is running around too. So he's a known entity for most of this.
Mhm.
Um,
And it is kind of funny. They do get trapped by the Von Tassels themselves when they're in there.
Yep, so we're going to keep this vague so you can go see it yourself. But eventually, the horseman does get the pumpkin and he puts it on his shoulders.
Just as the old clock tower is chiming midnight,
But Nick, he lets it happen. And he's like, the clock tower might say one thing, but my wristwatch, which has like a GPS and all this other stuff, is never wrong. It's 12:01.
so he tricked the horseman and gave him the pumpkin 1 minute after midnight.
Yeah, so the horseman is like destroyed or something.
Yeah, he's like destroyed.
He's gone.
He's
And
gone.
the pumpkin, instead of the scary face, because once everything started happening, a face was carved into it by magic or what have you, and it was a scary face. Now it's a smiling one.
Mhm. So they take the pumpkin. The security guard from the museum, he catches the thieves.
And
Nick and Kate, they find the manuscript inside the pumpkin. They give it back to him.
yeah, so happy ending there. Their classmates go through their haunted house, and the bully from earlier makes fun of their pumpkin because it looks happy, and then Nathaniel jumps out from behind the table and gives him a good scare.
Mhm. Which the teacher doesn't see.
No, and and that's the end. It's a short movie. It's cute. It's Halloweeny. I don't know. There's not really much to say about it.
No, there isn't a lot to say. But I think it is a very cute adaptation on a very old story that we grew up with and was a really, really scary Halloween story. At least when the audience is children.
The only thing I don't like about it is it is missing one of the fundamental Halloween things.
Candy!
There's no candy in it.
Yeah,
Like, the security guard gives a couple of people candy because it's like your costume's really good.
hmm
No.
Not even real candy either, it was just breath mints.
Yeah, you need candy.
Breath mints do not compare to all this glorious chocolate.
No. It's not. That's just my opinion.
No, I agree with you.
Back in the cauldron we go. So, character-wise. So,
So I guess
there's not really much to the characters, so we can't really talk about all of them individually.
I mean, I think
They don't really have much time to develop. Nick's a scaredy cat who grows a bit of a backbone.
and we find out in the end that he is distantly related to Ichabod Crane
Yeah. So he's been defensive about it because that's not exactly something to brag about.
because Ichabod was a fraidy cat.
Well, at least the rendition here, he was actually, so Washington Irving, the guy who wrote the original Sleepy Hollow tale, he based it off of a real place, as we've mentioned previously, and off of real people. So the character of Ichabod Crane was based off of two different people. Neither of them were cowards, though. They were both war veterans. One of them did go on to be a school teacher, and one was actually named Ichabod Crane, but he was not a coward either. But in this rendition, he was.
Because Washington Irving figured he needed a fraidy cat character to make the story more interesting, I suppose. But yeah.
And there's not really much to Kate. She is mostly there to spout relevant facts as they need them.
And she is Nick's opposite because she is a lot braver when it comes to the situation. She's more
But
adventurous.
you need both of them for the film to work because you need the characters to follow around. Nathaniel, as fun as he actually was,
I just
he
feel
needed.
I feel like he was just unnecessary comic relief.
Yeah. really wasn't needed to move the plot along.
Mhm.
I enjoyed him, but he was
He was just thrown in for the hell of it.
probably.
That's the impression we get.
We don't really know much about the Headless Horseman. We just know he wants the pumpkin. We don't even know what he plans to do if he gets it.
No, all we know and all we learn is his history from Nathaniel, which could have just gotten from reading the book, so.
Well, either way, the thieves, like, their subplot was unnecessary.
It's like they just, when I watched that, it was like they took the thieves from Home Alone and just was like, let's make it Halloween related.
They like that little subplot. I mean, sure, it added extra conflict and maybe a little tension.
And more comedy.
Yeah, but it really was not required.
No.
They already had the real horsemen chasing them. They didn't need a couple fake ones.
Mm-hmm.
Because they dressed up as the horsemen a couple of times to try to sneakily grab
The pumpkin from the kids.
it makes more sense in context.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just, they weren't needed. And by extension, neither was the museum guard who was chasing them.
Mm-hmm.
But all in all, it's a fun, cute little film.
And it was still enjoyable.
Yeah, we both like it.
Mm-hmm.
So what about you? Anyone remember watching this as a kid?
Mm-hmm.
Leave a like if you want, a comment below would be appreciated.
And you can follow us on Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram. It's all the same name as our channel. But yeah, that's video number 3. One more to go, and we'll see you guys then.
Bye!